Welcome everyone tonight. It is now 6:33 p.m. This is the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission, Monday, May the 1st, 2023. We do have a quorum. You have myself here, Derek Parks is the chair, Scott Lindsay, member, and to my right, Ms. Karen Stanfield, member. And also too, we have from the city staff, we have Ben, Director of Development Services, and Emma, Planning and Zoning Manager. Do we have any commissioners by Zoom? Okay. First item here is the consent agenda item, which is approving the minutes from the meeting of April 3rd of 2023. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the minutes from April 3rd? Can I have a motion, please? We approve. Second. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Going down to the new business, which is number 2, is conduct a public hearing and consider a SUP for a restaurant with private club on-site alcohol consumption for the property identified as Lot 2RA, Block B, SNH. Block 2RA, Block B, SNH Business Phase 1, addressed as 103 Harris Avenue, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-07, requested by John Barbosa.
Good evening, Commissioners. The building has operated as a restaurant for almost 10 years, and the new tenant is proposing to serve alcohol at the subject site. The site must meet all state separation requirements from churches, schools, or public hospitals, and it does meet that 300 feet distance requirement. Staff recommends approval of the sale of alcohol, as it will increase sales at the restaurant. The future land use plan also supports any sort of retail and restaurant use in this area. This is where the Pollo Regio needs to be located.
I'm the Waterburger there, off 35.
All right. This is a public hearing, so those in favor of this item, you can go first, or if you have questions or concerns or against this item, you can go second. So I'll open up the hearing for those that are in favor of this item. You can come to the podium, or if you're on Zoom, you can go first, please. Please state your name and your address. Anyone against this item or have any questions? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Close the public hearing.
Okay. The public hearing has been closed. Questions for staff. We're going to agenda item 2. And can I have a motion, please?
We approve item 2 as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 2 has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 3, which is also to conduct a public hearing and consider zoning change from commercial P1 to plan development PD 151 to allow for a reduction in landscaping, parking, and changing uses on the property located on the northwest corner of North Main Street and Methodist Street on property described as part of the 60R Bell Survey, property ID number 179894, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-08, requested by Gene Bone. Staff, please.
Site currently does not meet the city's minimum landscaping or parking requirements, as the building was constructed almost 100 years ago. The applicant is requesting the outside parking to serve as a requested parking on site. If a restaurant were to become a tenant on this site, a parking agreement would be required with an adjacent property to support restaurant parking. There is currently little room for additional landscaping as the site has little pervious surface and a narrow strip of shrubbery. The applicant is requesting the existing landscaping serve as the required landscaping for the site. The proposed allowed usage for the site has also been revised to ensure that the future uses will benefit the city's historic downtown area. It can be referenced on the attached use table list. The current exterior of the building has been overlaid with stucco material from years ago that covers all historical and architectural significance of the building. Staff recommends the building be restored as close as possible to its original state by removing the exterior material and exposing the brick. Restoring the building will bring added historical value to the city's downtown area. If this is approved, the city will issue a 6-month temporary certificate of occupancy in order to give the owner time to complete the recommended improvements. Staff recommends.
Turn those speakers off on this side, we have people voting over here. Yeah, there's,
So staff recommends approval with that condition.
yeah, just come more to the mic.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, come on.
Continue.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so those in favor of this item, you can go first, or if you have any questions, you can go second. And if you do have any questions or concerns, please state your name and address. Or if you have anyone like that.
So I'm utterly confused now about this because
You're a second,
I'm against.
okay. State your name
Well,
and address.
we'll have to talk about it. My name's Gene Bond. I live in 5435 Cripple Creek Circle, Midlothian, Texas. So the agreement in place for today, I believe, was that the EDC was going to consider a grant for the exterior renovation of the property. And so, although I'm for the zoning change, I'm not for the restoration of the exterior unless there's a grant in place. So, is that the way we're looking at it?
So what Lee told me was that he had a conversation with you about taking something to the EDC and that it was not gonna be looked on favorable, so it may be a waste of time. Is that not what the conversation you had with him was?
Yes, that is the conversation.
Okay, so we had recommended that Mr. Bond go talk with the Economic Development Corporation about possibly getting a grant of some sort to help pay for the restoration of the building.
Okay.
When that was brought up with the folks that are around the EDC, it seemed like there was not gonna be a lot of favor for it, so it went away. That doesn't change the staff recommendation of it should be tried to be restored to its most original state.
So can we go back to the picture of the current building? All right, so this building was painted a month or so ago, and it's in wonderful condition from an exterior standpoint. Everybody that's noticed it has appreciated that. I've improved it completely. I wish there was a picture of how it looked before. It's more of a yellowish beige color with some signage halfway hanging off of it. So we've painted the exterior accents of the roofs, the metal roofing, metal, black, and the exterior has been freshly repainted. So the reason why this is a concern, it's not that I'm for or against anything really. Obviously I would love to do a restoration of the exterior. That's not a financially viable option at this time. With the grant, there was some optimism that it could potentially be a possibility if they were to provide a grant from the EDC, then obviously I would support that 100% and would go forward with that. The previous use of this building, I didn't want to confuse people because they said it's a change in use. We're not changing the use. The previous uses of this building was a hair salon. The prospective tenant that is on board to sign a long-term lease to come and operate in this vacant building is a hair salon. So we're keeping the use exactly the same. The only thing that changed was in 2018, the zone ordinance changed and affected the landscaping and the parking. I would argue that there's a very wide strip of shrubbery, as you see, along the side of the building. It's a very green building, has grass and greenery all the way around it. with the exception of the front of the building. So the problem with the temporary CO is that no tenant is going to commit to a lease with the word temporary involved. So what we need to redo is rephrase it as a certificate of occupancy based on just the landscaping and the parking. And forget about the exterior renovation for right now. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but I'm just saying we couldn't do it in 6 months on our own dime. So the idea is wonderful, it's great, but we have a bigger vision for the entire downtown area. I'm probably the majority landowner and building owner in this area, and so, or my company is. And so we're going to revitalize this entire area, bring in new businesses that generate sales tax revenues, paint murals on the buildings, welcome to Red Oak, really big with a hawk flying over it. All kinds of really neat things are coming to this area, which has been deprived for a very long time. And most of these buildings down here are sat vacant for a very long time. Matter of fact, the building behind it was vacant for 3 years or 4 years, and this building as well. And so we're bringing in small businesses that want to operate. The business that is coming into this building next month or this month is the Parlor on Ovilla Road. They've been operating as a men and women's hair salon for 7 years in Red Oak. They're a very viable business. They've done really well, and they're extremely excited about moving into this building. They're going to rename it something along the line of the Bonnie and Clyde Salon because it is a men and women's salon. Bonnie and Clyde, actually, the movie was filmed in the building behind this, and so there's a lot of historic things that have happened over the years and memorable moments for this area, and they're trying to repurpose and capture that so that the public can become more aware of it. I think that renovating the exterior of the building as a way to hold back this building would create a scenario where this building sits vacant for another year. So, we're going to be in trouble if that's a strict requirement. So on that basis, then you're going to have to tell me, am I for or against it? Because I'm not sure now.
I have a question. I don't know if this is a question.
Sure.
Do you have plans, does your overall vision mean ever renovating the exterior of the building?
Absolutely, yeah. The EDC will give the money for the grant. That's not the problem.
Only to get
The problem is that a hair salon doesn't generate sales tax revenue. But the dog grooming business that I have next door does. So every time we shave a dog, we pay sales tax. But every time we cut your hair or my hair, we don't pay any sales tax. So they're only looking at it from a sales tax perspective, not from a, hey, I feel good, I just got my hair cut, now I'm going to go spend a bunch of money on lunch or take my girlfriend out to lunch or whatever, right? So they're not looking at the tertiary or whatever, impact. But when you have a vacant building, there's no impact on sales tax. It's negative. I mean, it's the opposite of what you want. When you have a vibrant area where people are coming down there and using these services, they may not be paying sales tax then, but they're going to pay sales tax when they drive 2 miles down the road and get gas or go to Whataburger. In the future, sure, this can be a restaurant, it can be a business, a boutique, it can be a business that pays sales tax. All of the buildings can be, but we can't hold back somebody just because their business doesn't create sales tax income directly. That would be a mistake. Especially since it's not just someone that showed up to Red Oak today and said, oh, I want to open a business and give it a shot. These are people that are veterans in Red Oak. They cut city council members' hairs, they cut other people's hair. They know the community very well. And I would not want to call them after this meeting and say, sorry, guys, you're just going to have to either renew your lease or find another location. And if they find another location, it's not in Red Oak. They've already made that clear. This is the only location that they'll accept in Red Oak.
So I'll give, I guess, a long-winded speech, and then Gene will probably want to have something to say about it afterwards. So, let me start out by saying zoning is a shield and or a sword. Okay, and so, in the shield, it protects the community, it protects residents from, having an industrial coal plant put right next to their house or something crazy like that, right? But in this case, it feels like a weapon, right? It feels like a weapon as in we have created these zoning districts that none of these buildings can comply with. Okay, so that's my first empathetic response to anybody down there, like, well, let's do something, let's work together. But what he is asking and what others have asked down there is to entitle the building as it is today. And what I don't want to have happen is have opportunities that then we are entitling them forever. That's what this would be. If he said, I want the building to look just like this, I may do some stuff, I might be on the promise, blah, 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 but the entitlements are for that building to look just like it does right now today, forever. And so that's where I feel like we have to take those opportunities, use them as a shield, our zoning requirements as a shield in this case, to protect against something like that, because what if we did leave it like that? Well, the couple of lots that are maybe vacant, well, what if they want to build a concrete block building that looks just like that, because that one's already entitled, why'd you let him do it and not me? Just hold it all in there. From a use perspective, it's a fine use. We're in that first layer of getting the downtown up and going, right? So, personal service, I'm fine with. And generally, in the downtown, a personal service would be fine. We don't want to fill up with personal services.
Right.
But as this first layer of getting the downtown back up and going, it's fine. It's fine. But I also want to give them other uses. I want it to be a restaurant. I want it to be a deli. I want it to, have all these other opportunities. But as far as the aesthetic of the building goes, I mean, you saw the original, if we could get something back like that, I mean, what kind of energy would that create, just having something that looks like that down there, right? And, he owns the bank building behind it, this one here, that we did, something on about a year ago, which then brings me to another point, is he bought that other building and went through the whole process, but then didn't call us when he bought this building to see what we would be saying about it. So that, I just, irks me a little bit, but it's done. From a part, this kind of goes back to some of our other conversations. There's always two ways to look at parking. Who cares? We got to have a parking space for everybody who might come to that building ever, at the peak time of the day, right? And so that's how we end up with a Target with 400 extra parking spaces out there that only get used on Black Friday. So in this case, and in downtown in general, my general opinion of parking is, who cares? If their business is gonna be successful, they're gonna have to figure it out. And people, they're gonna be parking on the street, and everybody's gonna call us and be like, oh, there's people parking in the street, but I would rather have that problem than the ghost town problem, right? If you don't have a parking problem, you have a bigger problem. And that's what downtown is right now. And that's, a lot of that is in part to trying to shoehorn in walking, development that was done when there was only walking and horses, and shoehorn it into, everybody's got cars, everybody needs somewhere to park. Same thing with landscaping. I could care less about landscaping on the site. Put a couple of, if we got the front of this building back and just had a couple of potted plants out there, it'd look great. So, as far as, the use and the parking and the landscaping, to me, it should be considered a non-factor in these areas. What it comes down to is, what's the use, which is fine, and even the ones that are all being asked for are fine. But what does it look like? What is the aesthetic? So, Gene, if you want to address anything I said.
So Ben and Ashley, we all work really well together. We're not adversaries. We're not against each other. We're not fighting or anything like that. But one thing that Ben's doing is making some pretty big assumptions. He's making a huge assumption that underneath that stucco, the building looks like that. Nobody knows that until you take the stucco off the building, okay? So let's say we remove the stucco and then all of a sudden there's no brick behind it. What are we gonna do, right? We're gonna be in trouble. We're gonna be left with a building that looks really bad. First of all, and second of all, I think where we do disagree is that the building actually looks beautiful right now. If you drive by, it's the freshest looking building in our downtown area. It's absolutely stunning. It's one of the best looking buildings I've ever seen. The stucco has zero cracks, zero defects. It's, the stucco, let's call it what it really is. It's called an ethos system. It's not really stucco. It's an exterior finished insulation system. So 30 years ago or so, somebody made a decision to do this to the building, not me, somebody else. It's been that way for 30 years or 40 years. No one's had a problem with it. It's operated as a salon twice during that time. It must have had certificate of occupancy both times. You know, the system that was put on there isn't an aesthetic system necessarily. It's actually a functional system. It's the insulation for the building. If you take that off, you're creating a condition on the building that would leak and air problems, water problems. And so assuming the brick is there, then you could potentially have some problems. Now, I've been inside the building and I know what it looks like from the inside. It's a combination of CMU block that was put in at one time that filled in the windows. So I know that for sure. But also, this is sort of a single option meeting, which was a huge surprise to me today. And so I'm trying to figure out how to process this. We came down here with the the zoning change. That was the main thing. Not hinging on a temporary certificate of occupancy for 6 months if we do an exterior renovation of the building. I was actually called by city staff and told that that part of the process went away completely. Then I was called the next day, said, hey, it came completely back as long as the EDC's on board. But if the EDC's not on board, it goes away again. The EDC, I followed up, I sent a formal proposal. I spent hours of work putting together all of the proposals for them. I got zero response. I emailed them, hey, did you see my email a week later? Yeah, we got it. Called them every day, 3 times a day for 2 weeks straight. Could not get a hold of anyone. So it's not that I haven't really tried, but eventually I got a phone call and it said, sorry, bud, you're not generating sales tax revenue. Have a nice day. Oh, and by the way, you know, we're not able to help you with this right now at this time. And so, you know, that's fine. I wasn't pushing for it. The city staff was. But I was following their lead and trying to make that happen. But if anyone can look at this building right now and tell me that it's an ugly building or that it's setting a precedent for downtown, the other historic building next door was stuccoed years ago. I have to argue that. The columns are brick, they're masonry. You know, it's a very nice looking building. Now, if we can generate a little bit of revenue from some lease contracts, then we can spend some money adding windows. We can spend some money tearing off the existing entrances and putting larger awnings on them. But until that happens, until there's a positive cash flow, there's no possibility for us to be able to achieve those goals. So what I'm requesting now is that we take that stipulation of a temporary certificate of occupancy completely off the table. Let's talk about the landscaping and the parking. I am for that 100%. And if we can't remove that stipulation at this time, then I'm gonna have to vote against it. And the city staff is on board with what I just said, because we've talked about this several times.
Bob, are you trying to talk in here?
Yeah.
I've just got it on. If they desire to.
Sorry, Bob, can you start over? You were breaking up really bad.
All right, sorry. Nothing to add other than what Ben has said. Approve zoning and amend any of the conditions, remove or add additional conditions. We had 6 months. Mr. Bond said something about
Yeah, hey, Bob, Bob, can I call you real quick, because I'm not able.
Yeah. All right, yes.
Anyone else? the president says, what y'all want to hear? Okay.
Can you hear me now, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't have anything additional to add.
Okay.
So, the commission could amend any of the conditions that are on,
Okay.
and approve it with amended conditions.
Okay. All right, thanks. So essentially what he just said was, y'all amend, you can take our recommendations or amend them, any of the recommendations, or approve it without any recommendation. Can go.
Does anyone else, had any questions or against this item? If not, can we, have a motion to close the public hearing, please? Second. All in favor?
To close the public hearing, sir? No.
So, how did we?
All that is stop the talking for the public. Now we're discussing.
We'll close the public hearing, then we're gonna talk about it. What is it? Oh, then you talk about it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, can I have a motion again, I'm sorry?
Motion to close, I seconded it.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing. Closed. Commissioners, have any questions?
And y'all can direct to the developer as well.
Yeah, I have a few. First of all, is the 6 months, can that be extended any further? I'm asking the staff first. Can it be extended to the different, okay, that answers my first question.
I think actually, it's the first, lease you have is 2 years, is that correct?
6 years.
6 years.
Okay, all right, that answers one of my questions. What other properties, sir, do you own or occupy in that area?
So, I'll show them on the map.
Yeah.
I don't know what the best thing to kind of call this. The building we're talking about is here. He also owns the small, parcel here with the small, dog grooming business on it. It's the church, is that what's in there right now?
Yes.
Church, and then this is actually 2 lots, I think.
Correct.
With this building and then this vacant lot here. And that's it?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
Do we have any idea what the cost of a revitalization of that building would cost?
Mr. Vaughn gave us a couple different numbers. I think the final number was around $130,000.
Correct.
I'll let Ms. Stanfield, if she has any questions, and then I've got some comments after that.
Joel, have you talked to, looked at any other grants besides just the Red Oak P&Z?
No, I. So kind of fill me in, you said you talked to EDC, what was their whole discussion, what was the discussion going in the grant?
So EDC is more than happy to provide a grant to restore the exterior of the building. They're also interested in 6 other opportunities that are provided them for an outlay of the master plan for the downtown area. They wouldn't have a problem providing a grant if it generated sales tax revenue to pay back the grant. So the way it would work is if I could put, let's say a bar, restaurant. Every time you come in and buy a sandwich and a drink, it generates sales tax revenue. They won't need to commit to a certain amount of sales tax revenue a year, and then they would run the math on it and approve the grant. Obviously, it still has to go through the formal channels of the meeting and the board meeting. But they were excited about providing the grant. And it's my experience or knowledge so far from talking with them that they've been doing really well providing grants throughout the city. But only for businesses that generate sales tax revenue. Fortunately, my tenant doesn't do that. They sell one bottle of shampoo a month, right? Right. Because everybody went to Amazon, built the retail part of the salon business. Fortunately.
So instead of coming to the commission as a whole, maybe the leadership is, Mr. Baumann, if it has not come to front, they haven't taken action as a body.
Right, there was discussed amongst, some of the, Lee and some of the others that, are heavily involved.
I have offered the lot next to the building there, at the top of the screen. I've offered that to the city and to the EDC as a sacrifice for my development company, 100% sacrifice, to not build a building and to put in a community parking lot for the downtown area. That means that I would develop that into a parking lot for the entire downtown area. So in the future, when a retail, tenant comes in and they do generate sales tax revenue and they say, wow, I'd love to be in this building because there's plenty of parking. Right now, I've been approached by people that generate sales tax. That's not the issue. It's just once they drive down there and look at the building, they call me and they go, Gene, where do we park? There's nowhere to park, I'm sorry. I had a boutique want to come into the same building that we're talking about today. And they just said there's nowhere to park, so they're not going to do it, you know. Hair salon, fortunately, because they've been in business 7 years, they're appointment only. So the maximum number of cars they ever have on site at any given time is 3, including theirs. Because they're just bringing in, you know, 1 or 2 customers at a time on appointment basis. Mm-hmm. And I'm also offering to buy the other properties in that area. We made agreements with all of the owners of those properties. They're very run down. One of them needs to be torn down, the other one on the corner. The guys work for the city. I've offered numerous times for buy that property in Sarah County. It's a good faith, part of the reestablishing the downtown area. No one has done anything, ever. And I've heard, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I'm doing it. I'm here today. I did it. I bought the building, put the money into it. I'm excited about it. I don't want people in Red Oak to get behind me and get excited about this work. I am doing it. Working for 30 years it's sat vacant or ugly on the outside or whatever. We're gonna fix it. Starting today.
Well, once again, I have a whole lot of experience with that downtown because I started working there in 1984. That what used to be the police department that sits over there, and I know exactly what that building was made of. So what's underneath it. I also know that that is the best that building has looked since 1984 because I go by there quite frequently. I know the business that you're talking about because I don't have a lot of hair, but what I have left, I'm getting cut there. So I'm very familiar with them, and they are a good, a good local business. So we want to support that. I'm a big advocate of that downtown plan that we've had for a long time. As a council member for 12 years, we had that dream. But the problem is that we can require and require and require, and no one is going to use that area. He's exactly right. If it was as easy as getting somebody in there to put a business in and do that kind of revitalization, it would have been done a long time ago. And that's a great dream. I really love the fact that he's talking about giving an area for parking because I think that has always been a big time problem for us down there to be able to create any kind of business momentum that's not having the parking. Would I like to see it all like it was? Yes. Do I believe that by denying this, we're going to get somebody to come in there and spend that kind of money? No, I don't. I don't believe that somebody's going to spend $130,000 to put a business in there that doesn't have any parking. So, unless it's a business use like this. So, personally, whereas I appreciate the city staff's input on this and their recommendation because it is what I'd like to see down here. And I really hope, Mr. Bond, that at some point it can be. I hope that you are able to buy enough of that up and that EDC will get behind that. But until the city invests in that area, we just need the best tenants we can possibly get and stop having empty buildings laying around or sitting around here. So I don't have an issue with making a motion to approve it without the recommendation, but I'll let y'all go ahead and discuss it that way.
I'm leery of allowing it to stay this way. I totally understand 6 months is a short time to be expected to make any kind of change, the cost of it. But I'm leery of saying, yeah, you can just have it like this, and it has to look extra. To me, it may be nice finish, but it's quite unattractive. It's not what I would want my historic downtown to look like. I think we could develop the area as a place where you want to walk and go to restaurants and that sort of thing, the buildings look like that. We have to make some sort of market, something like that.
I would agree with that to an extent, substantial, but I don't see that anybody is going to make that type of investment in one building and pay $130,000 or more dollars for something that without any parking, it's not gonna be a type of business that's gonna be able to fund it. But I agree, I would love for it to, and I believe it needs to. And I think it would probably benefit, Mr. Bond down there if he can do that, but I just don't know that we're going to get it in that one building. I don't know if there's a extended period of time that we can give them to do that. If I started seeing buildings popping everywhere and everybody going to that, I'd be great. Say, hey, no, without it, we're not gonna do it, or shouldn't do it. I just don't see the momentum of being able to get that in there, and I don't see what prohibiting a business from coming in and occupying right now is gonna do to develop any of the rest of those buildings and get them into that condition. I would love that, I wanna see that vision has been there for a long time. I just don't see it individually unless the city puts some investment into it and helps that kind of thing happen. I don't see an individual doing that with any of those people.
Here's just looking at the building itself, when you said that place you're talking about, the booth there. And, therefore, right, Gene said, hey, he can do something on the other side of the building, or paint some logos, some Red Oak, welcome to Red Oak. I think that looks nice, that's very eye-catching. He's taking the steps, he's already bought some buildings there. So he's going in the right direction. But like I said, the issue with parking, we're in the same situation. If this tenant doesn't occupy that building, pretty much vacant, so, kind of like Scott, kind of in the middle, but I think it can be looked at from a different way than we've always looked at it. Since we've been looking at it, I think it can be done in a different way.
Yeah, I'm open to hearing about a different way. I just take it away. I think the vision we have for downtown, that we pretty much all, I think, have the same vision, just how we're going to take care of.
And I'll also mention, just to mention that I've got in my budget proposal this year, for next year's budget, is to create a downtown plan that has basically what amounts to a form-based code, that we can follow, that has like all of these things just kind of laid out, instead of having to go through this process every single time with every one of these buildings. We have a more set standards for what to do in a case like this. That would obviously come back to you guys prior to getting enacted if that budget.
I don't want to be seen as perceived as interruptive and jumping in and out, but I truthfully want to talk with you. The name of the company that owns the building, not Gene Bowman, Waller Street Development. We named the company after Waller Street in Red Oak because we're dedicated to this downtown revitalization. Now, are we Donald Trump? No. We don't have the money to just chunk 130, and it'd take us 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, with property taxes to even try to recover that exterior renovation cost. However, I will tell you, non-committal on paper, and I appreciate everybody's understanding, there are opportunities to add the big overhangs to the building. and potentially work on the building as we go. You know, as we get comfortable and settled in, you know, the theme of this salon goes along with the way the building looks today. You know, in good faith, am I gonna take those small overhangs off the side and the front and try to put the big ones across from the top? Sure, absolutely, I'd love to do that. I'm on board with everything Vince is requesting. I mean, absolutely, let's do it to the other building item. It was stuck up 30 years ago, and we had problems with it for 30 years. Let's do that one too. So I'm on board. I just can't afford to do it. And I don't think that Red Oak's gonna benefit from another vacant building for a year or two. I mean, I'll rent it out to a single operator that doesn't have a business. This storage. I mean, there's not much else I can do at that point, other than growth. So I've gotta find a way to generate sales, you know, revenue. Unfortunately, it's not sales tax, but it is a great, you know, business for the community. So we're dedicated to this area. I'm willing to buy the other properties and take them down. We own it outright. Trying to see, you know, is this achievable, or is it just too many people want it? I want to buy the ice cream stand, repurpose it or tear it down. The yellow building, repurpose it, tear it down. The lot in between, the insurance company. All of those buildings I have agreed with. Everyone's raised out. The only thing holding me back, stuff like this. I can't afford to do this many roadblocks just to get a salon set up in a building that was salon for.
Commissioners, have any questions, comments?
I don't have any more, and I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion, we approve without the recommendation of the,
The recommendation is to approve it as submitted, with no, basically no recommendation, right? Okay.
I second that motion.
Hey, Bob? Bob, you still on?
Yes,
Is it okay for the chair to second a motion?
yes, because,
Okay.
yep, because he can vote, so.
Right, okay.
Wait,
We got it.
is there synergy amongst the commissioners to extend the plan?
Okay, we got it, thanks.
Okay,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Agenda item 3 has been approved.
But the city council.
It'll still go to city council.
And it's still, goes to city council.
Yeah.
Moving along, agenda item number 4 is another conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change amending PD 130 to plan development 130R to increase the height and change the exterior elevation of the proposed truck stop located on the southeast corner of South I-35 East and Dobbs Drive and addressed as 660 Dobbs Drive, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-10, requested by Lupin Cheney. Sorry if I messed up the individual's name. Staff, please.
The originally approved PD approved the truck shop's height to be 20 feet, and the applicant is requesting the building to be approximately 25 feet and 6.5 inches. The reason for the request is to ensure air circulation, as there will be exhaust fumes being released within the building. The design of the building's elevation will be slightly changed, but will be 100% masonry. Staff recommends approval of the changes as the height is still under the maximum allowed height in the base zoning district of highway oriented, and the revised elevations are generally in conformance with the originally approved PD.
So this is like a real technical case, so this is more like, you know, we went through the whole zoning process, it got approved, and they submitted their permit, and their permit showed 25 feet instead of whatever it was, 20 feet.
Permit shows 20 feet, but permit shows 25 and 6.5 feet, but they're approved for 20 feet.
And so in the zoning process, there's many many things that we can, alter administratively, you know, small things, but, height of a building is typically prohibits us from making a minor change. So that's why it has to come back before you guys and then council. So it's kind of a technicality.
This is a, public hearing. Those that are in favor of this item, you can go first. State your name and your address, please. Those who have questions or concerns after that, you can go second and state your name and your address, please.
Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Nick Vasquez. I'm at 105 YMCA Drive in Waxahachie. I work for Victron Energy, and I am their construction manager. And, as Ben said, we've already been through PD on this. It was approved. It's really a cosmetic change we're looking at here, guys. What it came down to, as, we kind of learned through this process going through architecture and engineering, we had a real issue with circulation of the fumes coming off the trucks. The recommended elevation extension came from the engineer of record for this project to ensure that safely we're able to get rid of the exhaust fumes in the bays safely. And then we also have learned in this business that what we originally set up for the arrangement of the bays works better in a different configuration to help operate efficiently. So what it did really is just triggered a relocation of the base and a slight change in the elevation. We are still adhering completely to the original requirements on the materials. Using the same materials, the same quantities, you're just seeing a bit of a rearrangement of the application of those materials. The square foot of the building is the same, and the business is just the same as it was before.
Sure. Anyone else? Does have any questions? I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
All in favor? Public hearing has been closed. Any questions or concerns? Applicant or construction manager here first?
I don't know about the height change, but I'm just curious where on the property is the building going?
In the back,
The part
yeah,
of the site.
back here, this has all been reconfigured.
That is what's outside.
So the site's been reconfigured, and it goes about right here. So it faces out and then where you can pull into the bay, and then I can pull through. It's got bays on both sides, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It has bays it was in the original PD, all on, they were separated, now they're all on one side, correct? That's correct.
Have a motion, please, for agenda item 4.
Move we approve agenda item 4 as presented.
All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 4 has been approved.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Moving to agenda item 5, which is, conduct a public hearing and consider zoning change from, agriculture AG to plant development 152 for the residential development with a commercial site on the property located north of Stevenson Road, south of Red Oak Creek, east of Oak Cliff, ETJ, and approximately 2,000 feet west of Cascade Drive, described as 110.9 acres of a called 181 acre tract, described in volume 99, page 83, in John Smith survey, A-972, James E. Pat survey, A-839, Joe S. Davis survey, A-323, John S. Pat survey, A-842, in the city of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-09, requested by Creekside of Red Oak LLC. staff.
This is a request to rezone the property from agricultural district to planned development 152 of the proposed development of a mixed-use site. The PD proposes 185 single-family homes, 102 townhomes, a reserved area for a neighborhood retail site, and 16 common areas. Garages will be a mixture of J-swing, rear, side, and alley access. Development will be constructed in 5 phases as depicted on the concept plan. Access to the site will be from Stevenson and Oaks Boulevard on the south, and the developer will be responsible for the construction of the portion of Stevenson Road that is directly adjacent to the site. The developer of the subdivision to the south will be responsible for the construction of Stevenson Road that is adjacent to the property up until I-35 Service Road. A timeline for the construction of Stevenson Road is currently being drafted. All interior streets will be a minimum of 50 feet wide, with 4 feet wide concrete sidewalks along all residential lot frontages. 8 feet wide concrete trails will be installed throughout the park and open spaces, and 5 feet wide concrete sidewalks will be installed along all open spaces and HOA-owned lots. There will be an amenity area on the west side of Oaks Boulevard with a pool, pickleball courts, grill area, playgrounds, and community buildings. There will be another amenity area east of Oaks Boulevard with a tennis court and grilling area. Large trails will be installed on the northwest and northeast parts of the site with 8 feet wide trails, benches, lighting, and trash receptacles. There will be a 9-hole golf course within the east trail system. Any exterior, and as for the elevations of the home, it's been designed so that any exterior elevation that is parallel to the public right-of-way will be a minimum of 100% masonry. All other exterior elevations will be a minimum of 80%. All materials and elevations will substantially match the approved renderings, and all residences will be required to have a front porch or stoop area in front of the home. Staff recommends approval of the request. The site generally conforms with the future land use plan because it provides a diversity of housing. More of the smaller lots, the empty nesters could live there, the larger homes. It also provides a lot of amenity areas and site for future neighborhood services development. So it's pretty much in alignment with the future land use plan. That's what staff recommends.
Just to give more of an update on Stevenson, so the Oaks subdivision that's to the south there, when we were doing their development, their zoning and everything, part of their approval was that once they got 180 homes occupied, they had to improve Stevenson from the Oaks Boulevard at their north end all the way to 35, so because that's their only, or because they needed a second point of access for emergency. And so we're working right now on the design and of that, and so that would hopefully be done or in conjunction with the time that this kind of gets started from an infrastructure standpoint. Secondarily, you know, I think we've discussed it before. We have very few opportunities in the city that have sewer. This one has direct access to sewer, and so it's important to you know, not only provide good types of housing throughout our city, but allow a little more density along these lines that have the capacity for them. And like Emma was mentioning, this is kind of one of those what I would call full life cycle neighborhood where you've got townhomes for either when you're first starting out or when you're done owning a house, and then you've got everything in between, kind of that smaller lot up to your larger lot. And one thing that we thought was really important and that the developer's been providing is, we've constrained the front build line to push the homes very close to the street, comparatively to what has been traditional neighborhood, traditional since 1955, not traditional since the beginning of time. But but also providing that front porch, that front living room, that front social network of hanging out on your porch and talking to your neighbors. And that's been shown to reduce crime and, promote, social, interactions in the neighborhood and things like that. So, we thought that was really important, and the developer, did provide that. But I'll let them talk more about their development. A lot of stuff in there.
Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing. Those that are in favor of this item, you can go first. Please state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Casey Gregory. I'm with Sanchez Associates. We represent Creekside at Red Oak for this project. We annexed the site last year, and we've been working with staff on the zoning for the last few months. Like they said, this has in our mind, a great mix of different residential types. The townhomes, we've got the smaller single family that are backed by the alleys, and that's in the pink there. And then you've got the more traditional single family, going up to the wider single family as well. We have plenty of amenities on site. There's a floodplain at the north and south ends. So we have trail systems going through there. We have planned the wet detention ponds that will, look like a lake, basically, a small little pond for the site. Plenty of tennis courts and pickleball and grills, swimming pools, that kind of thing. So it'll be very family friendly, very encouraging people to get out and be around their neighbors, things like that. The commercial section, that will eventually come back for its own rezoning. There's nothing basically planned there except for a list of allowed and disallowed uses in the zoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that have any questions or concerns, regarding this agenda item?
Got some questions. Herschel Sanders, I live at 7 Remington Court, Red Oak. I believe this is adjacent to my property.
Yes, it is.
On Stevenson Road. Can I get a better picture of that area? You know what I'm talking about, Ben, since I visited you earlier on Stevenson Road. The description in the card was a little misleading, saying west of a certain road that doesn't actually go to Stevenson Road. So I was kind of lost.
So, Stevenson Road kind of goes through here, up by your property, which is here. I can pull it up on my Hellas CAD to help you.
Yeah, that would probably be better.
Yeah, so that street was the only street that was east
The
of.
dead end
Yeah, of the development.
in that
So,
neighborhood.
Yeah, that was our only point of reference to stay west of it.
So, more helpful with the aerials on.
Probably, for me.
Okay, so here's your property. All right, it comes and goes, and then there's Stevenson right there.
Yes, sir.
So you got that, the property. Big straight line delineated. Is that right, Katie?
That's right.
The straight line?
Zoom in just a little bit there, Ben.
Looks like
but there's more property between the hours and the hours.
Okay, so you're to the west. Okay, totally backwards from, I thought, when I got the card, I was picturing to the east, my property, and I was trying to get squared away there.
No, so it's on the Oakleaf side. We actually, I think, the developer actually bought the entirety of the tract, and so they're dealing with Oakleaf on this side of their big tract, and then they're dealing with us on this side. What's the total? The total is like 480 acres or something.
Yeah, it's very big size.
Yeah, it's just 120-ish, 111 on the Red Oak side.
In your planning, what are you considering on flood issues? Changing the current,
We do have a lot of studies, for the northern end of the property. I don't know if you can see very clearly on this exhibit, but, we're reworking some of the floodplain, especially in the kind of northeast corner. But all of that is done through a flood study to guarantee that there's no adverse conditions created downstream.
okay. Because we do have conditions downstream on Red Oak Creek.
They're adverse.
They're not good conditions.
That all gets reviewed and approved by FEMA, and so it's a pretty detailed study.
And everything you're talking is south of Red Oak Creek. Steve, is that correct?
Yeah, it
I
looks
think
like,
our property line
Is Red Oak.
is it Red Oak Creek, or at one time that was?
Yeah, it might have
Red Oak
moved
Creek?
a little bit, but yeah.
Red Oak Creek gets bigger every year.
Yeah, yeah.
My pasture gets smaller. Okay, that,
Clear up your
it does for now. I don't know where it's located. I was completely on the other side.
Okay.
So it's gonna be built in phases. First phase, they'll probably want to start moving on into preliminary planning and, engineering plans this year. That process probably gonna take, 6 to 9 months, maybe, just to get approved. And once construction starts, that'll take some amount of time. I know we are gonna be working with them, especially on Stevenson Road. I don't really know exactly what the timeframe is there. But the access is an important issue for us.
So what I said originally, it's not based on a time, it's based on a number of occupied houses. And, Mr. Sanders, I have been working with the engineer about getting it lined up a little more like we talked about through your property, so I should have some documents soon. And they actually may be reaching out to you soon, they need some extra survey data to make sure they're ready for it. But, they are in process of getting that design done, and they want to go ahead and start it pretty quickly, so that they don't get stuck with 180 occupied houses, and then you can't get them any more permits. So,
Best case scenario, they're able to start selling lots next year. Probably best case scenario.
I'd say that's pretty best case scenario.
Yeah. That's assuming construction goes quick with no problems.
Right, right.
Occasionally. Be a part. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? Second. Do you have any, questions or concerns?
Yeah. Townhomes, are those rental townhomes or purchase townhomes?
Well, the zone does not specify they have to be either. They are individually platted lots. So it can certainly be built by, purchased by someone who wants to own it, or, rent it. I know that can be controlled through, like, the HOA documents, things like that, but those haven't been written yet.
Our goal in doing anything like a townhome is always to have them individually platted, so at least they function more like a single family, and they are able to be owned fee simple, by individuals. Not to say that someone can just buy them all and treat it like a big apartment, but it's at least individually lotting gives the ability to own individually. It also gives the taxing authority ability to increase taxes much easier than increasing a one giant lot with one set of improvements on it. It makes it more difficult to own as rental property as the numbers don't work well.
She said this, but the road width again, can you just?
The right of way width was 50 feet. The street width would be 29, which is bigger. You can park on both sides and still get two-way drivers. They park, not 3 feet off the curb.
Can we get a fire truck through, or we're gonna have that post again to say that we can't get through?
Well,
I know, but
the park, 30 feet within.
I understand that. I'm gonna tell you that caused a lot of conversation. And
Right, but we can't build 35-foot wide streets.
Understood.
So my solution to the fire department, and they don't want to hear anything I have to say, is to buy a freaking fire truck that fits down the street. Because we don't have any, we don't have any, 5-story buildings here, so we can get away with some of the smaller stuff. Nobody likes that.
You know, I only ask for a reason. I always ask for
I
a
know.
reason. And it's not, it's a reason. Because it is a concern.
Yeah, I
And
get it.
it's been thrown at me like a dart
Yeah,
many times.
yeah.
He's gonna die, okay, so I just had to ask the question. Yeah, I said I would ask the question. I don't have any issue with it. I think this is probably one of the better ones I've seen. Better layouts I've seen, better use than most anything I've seen, so kind of encouraged about it. We don't have a lot of kids that need to go to school. That's another subject.
Says, 3 model homes may be constructed prior to the city acceptance of improvements, is that?
Yeah, well, they'll have to have the roads completed. Typically, what happens at the end of every development is that they've got all the streets in, the water's in, the sewer's in, and they're like, we want permits. But we gotta say, look, guys, you gotta do all of the Philly stuff too, you gotta make it look good, right? And so kind of the compromise, like, okay, well, you can have a couple of your builders come in, and they can do model homes, and you can start at least selling lots. But you don't wanna release that pressure valve, by letting them get permits if the screening walls and the landscaping is done, because let me tell you, it'll drag out 2 years.
Okay.
Anything else, commissioners? Have a motion, please?
Do we,
All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 5, has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 6, which is another conduct a public hearing and consider amending the City of Red Oak Code of Ordinance and the City of Red Oak zoning ordinance to provide for donation box regulations in the City of Red Oak, Texas, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-11, requested by city staff.
The City of Red Oak currently does not have an ordinance to regulate the operation of donation boxes on outdoor properties. Staff has drafted a donation box ordinance to regulate the application process, fees, location restrictions, maintenance standards, limitations to zoning districts, size limitations, separation requirements, and other restrictions to regulate its operation. If this is recommended for approval or approval with recommendation, staff will recommend this item to city council so that it may be adopted into our city zoning ordinance and our code of ordinances. And the draft attachment is included in your packet. I don't know if you all had time to kind of go through it, if you had any questions or comments. Kind of put in an excerpt there that shows which zoning districts that it's going to be permitted in. It's going to basically be allowed in the commercial and industrial zoning districts and restricted in the residential zoning districts. There's also going to be distance separation requirements from existing donation boxes and from residential zoning districts. There's also going to be maintenance requirements, and we're going to have all the owners' information for the donation box and the property owner information, just in case site gets crowded, filled with trash, or overloaded with items. We can contact them and make sure that it's, let them know that it has to be clean and in an orderly manner. They will have to apply, so they'll have to pay the fee, an annual fee, but the renewal fee will be something that's separate.
And this is something we discussed like a couple of meetings ago, but I'll tell you, I went to a gas station earlier, and someone was out there with a trailer, just putting all kinds of stuff right next to one of those donation boxes, and I was just like, this is out of control.
Yep.
They wouldn't put it in, they would put it beside.
No, they put it beside it. Well, they had already stuffed like bags and clothes in it, so it was like overflowing with bags, and then they were just putting like end tables and like a dining set out there. I was just like, oh, man.
This is another public hearing, so, those in favor of this item, if they have any questions, the floor is yours. Please state your name and your address, please. Not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make sure Mr. Sanders didn't have any questions, because they're the only audience. Okay, all right, second.
All in favor? Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, any questions? I think it's needed, so.
What do you do with the boxes that are there? Or someone just comes and sets one up without getting a permit, what's our,
Action?
yeah.
What's your request?
Or if someone does it without the application
Yeah.
process? Well, that's why it's gonna also be adopted in our code of ordinances. They will be ticketed and.
But if you don't know who owns it,
You know,
if you don't know who owns it, like a lot of ones that are out
Well,
there.
the property owner will be,
The property.
yeah,
Okay.
just like what happened with this one, I couldn't get a hold of them, the city actually has to pay for it.
we attempted to contact any of these that have them out there.
Yeah, this one was cleaned up, but, if there are any, I'm not sure if like our code enforcement officer has found any more, but if there are any, then he'll be in touch with them.
But to let them know what's coming, so that they have the opportunity to do it the correct one.
So all the existing
Right,
donation boxes,
right.
like to send out letters to them?
I mean, you obviously, if they're doing a good thing, then, and they're gonna follow the code, then that's great. you
Yeah.
know. But are they have to be notified because
Yeah,
it's
we
gonna
can do
take
that.
place before they start getting ticketed or something.
Yeah, we can do that.
I,
And these apply to the new ones,
anything, to-
Yeah.
okay, but that's what I'm getting at, is the old that are there.
Oh,
They have
it's
to,
there. They can just be like that.
are they grandfathered in, or are they gonna have to be informed?
What we'll do there, the use will be the zoning, like if they're in the correct district, they can stay there. What we'll need from them is a registration and, to them to comply with like putting their names and all that stuff on there. But like, for example, this one that's on the screen, it couldn't go up there, but like, we wouldn't allow it to go there now because it's within a certain distance requirement from the street. So we wouldn't allow it from a new permit standpoint, but it can stay there as long as they meet all the requirements of the, putting the information and all that.
Right, and that was my question, when you said
Okay,
that, was
sorry.
are they, no, I was just asking if they were gonna be notified,
Yeah,
given the
yeah, well,
opportunity
yeah,
to follow up with it.
Do we have to let them stay there?
We have to let them stay there if they were there at the time of the enactment of the ordinance. Now, if they move it, they're done, right? If they move it off-site, they're done. So. That's
That
kind of
there's a
our
lot of
only
everything
way.
else as far as keeping it clean and that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
You guys have done an amazing job of putting all this together. I don't know if you stole from everybody, but if you did, you did a heck of a job. So that's the way I feel. I believe you find it where it's at, and then you conform to it. But no, I very much needed. We can all see that up there. There are some good uses for these, and great, but I've done a good job putting this together. So.
Being said, can I have a motion for agenda item 6?
We approve agenda item 6 is presented.
All in favor? I have it, agenda item 6. The last thing for tonight is, discuss chapters 1 through 3 of Strong Town, a bottom-up revolution to build American prosperity. And Emma sent us, emailed us discussion topics also.
allocate to discuss tonight or time?
I'm fine, kind of, wish we had more people here to discuss it, but,
Does that sound like?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We can do that.
Yeah, you can do it to where you, just email us, any comments or questions you have about the chapters, and move on to the next one, or we can just move this, discuss chapters 1, 2, 3.
Let's just move it and discuss it.
Yeah.
We will discuss, next time. All right.
I think my term's up, so, I don't know if I'll be here or not.
And by the way, Leroy,
Yeah.
Leroy, resigned his post and he bought it, and he's moving to Glen Heights, so, next time, if we get a recommendation from the council to either move somebody up or appoint somebody new, then we'll have to replace our vice chair.
Vice Chair, right.
So we'll have that most likely on the next meeting.
So do I come to June or am I done? I just wanted to say congratulations if I'm done and give you all this, but if I gotta be here, if I get to be here in June, then I'll.
You will.
I guess, when does the term expire?
June is all I know. I don't know what an actual date that, she said my.
City Manager, Chair.
I'll check.
Okay, well, I'll bring it back. Thank you.
Yeah, mine is up there.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? All in favor? Ayes have it. We all.
And the next